Hey, you know PopCap Games, the company that made Plants vs. Zombies and Bejeweled? Well, believe it or not, at least before Plants and Zombies, PopCap Games made several browser games that used to be featured on their website. Those games are long gone from their website, as once PopCap Games released Plants vs. Zombies in 2009 and that became successful, they changed gears towards the mobile games market. And once PopCap was bought by Electronic Arts in 2011, there was certainly no turning back, and you couldn't play any of their original browser games anymore. This was a shame because PopCap made some of my favorite Flash games. Well, JavaScript technically, but whatever, for the purposes of Flash Fossils, it all works. For this episode, I want to talk about my favorite PopCap game, Mummy Maze. Mummy Maze is based off of a logic puzzle known as the Theseus and the Minotaur, created by Robert Abbott in 1990. Robert Abbott invented a new type of logic puzzle called a logic maze. Rather than just finding the exit or finish, you maybe had to follow a certain extra set of rules or instructions that limited your options. The first one he published in 1968 was called Traffic Flow and Floyd's Knob. The idea was that there were a lot of confusing and contradictory traffic laws in this small town, and it made driving difficult. All these roads where you can't turn right here and you can't turn left there, so you have to find your way through the town's grid of street intersections with their own weird rules to get to the other side. Abbott would keep on making these logic maze puzzles, and 22 years later in 1990, Theseus and the Minotaur was created as yet another logic maze puzzle. In the Greek mythological story of the Minotaur, the half-man, half-bull hybrid monster was contained inside a maze by the genius Daedalus, and was never able to escape and forever trapped. For the puzzle, the idea was you're inside the Minotaur's maze, which is a grid with a random array of connected and disconnected walls. You're trying to get out like any other maze, but the Minotaur is trying to get you as well. You and the Minotaur take turns. You get one move in any direction, then the Minotaur can take 2 steps. However, the Minotaur's steps go through a specific set of instructions. 1. The Minotaur will always try to move closer to you regardless of any walls or other obstacles that might be in the way. 2. The first step is to see if he can move horizontally. 3. The second step is to see if he can move vertically. Maybe the walls will force him to move only horizontally or only vertically, but he must at least try horizontally then vertically first. And there's where the fun of the puzzle is. The Minotaur can move faster than you, but being bound by these rules means he's not very smart. If you try to go just straight towards the exit at the beginning of a puzzle, the Minotaur will catch up to you and get you. So to win, you have to move around the maze and lure the Minotaur into some sort of trap where he can no longer move. Once the Minotaur is trapped, you can escape and win the puzzle. Since the maze is always a random grid array of walls, there are thousands of varieties you can play on a standard maze size, and potentially limitless if you make the maze even larger. As mentioned in previous episodes, so many Flash games are pre-existing games and puzzles, but with different skins. So in 2002, PopCap Games made the game Mummy Maze that was essentially a bunch of Theseus and the Minotaur logic maze puzzles, but with an ancient Egyptian archaeology aesthetic. You're a typical invasive archaeologist trying to grave rob a treasure inside an Egyptian pyramid, and the Minotaur in this case is a zombie mummy trying to stop you. You can select between 3 difficulties, the first being easy 6x6 mazes, the second being more difficult 6x6 mazes, and the third being difficult 8x8 mazes. You have a pyramid chamber with 14 puzzles to complete before you get your hands on the prize. Playing this game as a young kid, I loved everything about this. The sound effects when moving were fun, you get a fun animation of the mummy nabbing you if you fail, and the sound of the menu popping up whenever you lost mixed with the zombie growls from the mummy is seared into my brain. Also, the Explorer and Mummy even have animations for when they aren't moving, and that's always just such a fun detail. You also have an additional option to skip your turn if you think that'll help you somehow. Now, it could have been easy to have all the puzzles be normal, but the game does have additional aspects to it the more you play. Some levels have trap squares, where if you walk onto them, you either die from a trapdoor or a boulder crushing you to death. Some levels have what's known as a red mummy, who instead of doing horizontal first then vertical, he does vertical then horizontal. Then my favorite levels would be ones with 2 mummies. On multiple mummy levels, you have the 2 mummies trying to get you, but you can get one mummy to destroy another by tricking them into walking into each other. Now, 14 puzzles per pyramid times 3 difficulties, that's 42 puzzles. For the casual gamer who'd just play this one bored, that's perfectly fine. The mazes themselves are different every time as well, limited only by the mathematical dimensions of the maze. So you'd have to play hundreds of times, if not thousands of times, before you'd see the same maze again. But say you want to play more, what then? Well, while sites like Miniclip had ads, PopCap made money with software. Mummy Maze, the free-to-play browser version, would advertise a more full game called Mummy Maze Deluxe with fancier early 2000s 3D graphics, 10x10 grid mazes, up to 15 pyramids of levels with 10,000 possible puzzles, and so much more. This hefty 3.14 megabit version of the game you'd download to your PC like a traditional PC game. If you didn't want to buy it, you could download a free trial version that'd last you a few weeks before no longer being playable. Well, how much did the full version cost? It cost $14.95, which in 2024 money is closer to 26 bucks. That's a lot for a puzzle game and why I never ended up purchasing the full version. Plus, you know, I was a kid, I didn't have money. But of course I did try the free trial version. Besides, the online browser version will always be there. Or at least I thought it would be until PopCap scrubbed all their old browser games off their website around 2011 after EA purchased them. I was personally devastated because the browser version wasn't found on other websites, mostly due to the fact that it was a JavaScript game rather than an Adobe Flash game, which is what other browser game websites used. In addition, the deluxe version wasn't ever posted anywhere else either, so until the Flashpoint archive came out, I thought this game was lost forever. Sure, you could find some sketchy download websites with a pirated version of the free trial you could download, but you weren't able to register them for the full game anyway, so you'd only have a few weeks before the trial would run out. If you removed it and re-downloaded it, it would somehow remember you had already had the trial. That's why you're not seeing any actual footage of the deluxe version, because I have already tried the free trial on my current computer, so oh well. Although if you search, you can find other people playing the deluxe version posted to YouTube. Going over a decade without playing this game was depressing, and I'm glad Mummy Maze along with the other PopCap games are on the Flashpoint archive. You can try finding bootleg files of the deluxe version, but I have no idea which ones are actually safe, and they're probably all just the free trial ones anyway, so keep that in mind. Mummy Maze to me was the PopCap browser game that deserved its own video more than any other, especially due to the fond memories I have for it. But I'll definitely have a future Flash Fossils video where I can run through the other major games, because they still had other cool games as well. But until then, thanks for watching.